Yo, it is your truly, Lumor Decina, aka Mr. Cool Spot, coming to you guys live and direct at the Cool Spot with my lovely co-host, Sharita Freeman. How you doing, Free?
Hey, what's going on? How y'all feeling today? How are you feeling today?
Good, I'm good. You know how it is.
Yeah,
this has to be a dynamic show. This has to be
it's
a
gonna be.
dynamic show. That's all I expect. That's the least of my expectations. Nothing but
Okay.
dynamic explosions. Like this is going to be a real good build. I just know it because this week has been hellish, Free, and very very challenging week. I'm thankful though because I understand. Again, we talk about it. We talked about it in other videos when
Mm-hmm.
we step into that first realm. You know what I mean? Of faith, we step into the new realm of spirituality. You know what I
Talk
mean? And
about
what's
it.
comes spiritual attacks. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We are expanding because with the cool spot, we've never done anything like this. This is something new. You know, when it comes to
Mhm.
this, Samuel Blue, what's up, brother? Having this discussion with our good guest that's going to be on the show today, David Blackwelder. Super excited about that. But yeah, what's going on with you, Free? I don't want to
You know
prolong.
what? Like you said, it's been an interesting week.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle of a move, a very abrupt move, but it was a blessing nonetheless. And so, I'm in like literally in an empty room in my house.
right, right.
As my other spot is unavailable because it's deconstructed. My other spot I like to do when we do the podcast. So yeah, it's interesting. I think the more things that we have going, the more adversity that we face, I feel like it means that there's greatness coming, and that there's a mission and a mission and a message behind it all. So
Yeah,
I think we fought to be here. So let's go.
we
This,
here. We
this is
here.
something real, and this is something that we have to share. And people are being educated by the conversations we're having, the topics that we're uncovering, and we're
Yeah,
growing and learning from it as well. And so that's what it's
yeah,
about. That is
absolutely,
what it's about.
absolutely.
So,
It seems like every show is a new journey. It's
hmm
always something different. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's going to make this a dynamic movement because we're learning. We're learning, like you said, as the show grows, we're also growing and we're also learning. And hopefully everybody had their pen in their pads today. Have your questions ready. My man
yeah,
Samuel said he is ready. I
he
have
got
my
them
question.
ready.
He's ready. All right. So with no further ado, we want to introduce our guest on today's show, David
Mhm.
Blackwelder. Come on board, David.
All right, hold on one second. There we go. We got them added. Hey, David, how you doing today?
Oh, doing good. How are you doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well.
Yeah, I don't see
Um,
him here. I don't see him. Do you see him?
yep, he's here.
Oh, okay. I don't see him on my end. Oh, you guys see him.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Go
I
ahead.
can
Go ahead.
see. I can see you, man. So
Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work. Go ahead,
So
Free.
I want to give y'all just a little bit of background about David and about what we're going to talk about today. So our topic
hold on
is
one second.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I
He's
can't.
answering text
Hold
messages
on one
on
second.
phone.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
sorry. Um,
He's a busy man right now.
multitasking.
Yeah.
But his
Hold on
goal
one
is to
second,
protect all
guys.
the
My
citizens.
Bluetooth picked up, and I can't hear you
Okay.
guys. One second.
Uh-oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So while we're waiting, we just want to give you guys a warm welcome. Thank you guys for taking out your time and joining us here at the
All right,
Cool
guys, I
Spot.
got you back connected. I'm sorry about that.
It's
All right,
okay.
cool. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Just let me say this real quick. Just want to thank everybody for tuning into the Cool Spot, the place where creative millennials
Hey, can
meet.
you hear me?
Again, yeah, we hear you, brother. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, bro?
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. Can you hear us? He may have to log off and log back in like you did, Free. There you go. I
Mhm.
can see you now. Can you hear us, bro? Can you hear us? You may have to log off.
Yeah, I'm gonna add them back. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now? No.
Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, we
Okay,
hear
yeah,
you.
I can't hear you guys for some reason.
Yeah. Log off and come back in. Yeah,
Yep.
there you go.
All right.
Get log off and come back in. So, welcome again to the cool spot, the place for creative millennials be, right?
We'll
Again,
work on our technical difficulties, okay?
this is gonna be dynamic. It's gonna be dynamic. I promise you, it is. But the place where creative millennials meet again, we are as millennials, the voice of the millennials, right? We are as millennials what the elders were to us when it came to information. Well, what the elders were to us when it came to information, we are now that to the next generation behind us. You know
Correct.
what I'm saying? And that's what we do at the Cool Spot. We are here to give you guys the information. We're here to do lectures, which you guys will get a piece of some of that today. I was deep in the bag on this one, Free, on the journalism tip, right? And yeah, so we're gonna do some background history, Black history from highlighting the 68, 1969, and we're going to give you guys a little bit of bonus from 1971 to kind of close that off. Then we're going to go into our questions. So please, if you guys have your questions ready, if you don't have them ready yet, please write down your questions. We're going to get into our good brother David Blackwelder's background, his bio. He is running to become a Wake County Sheriff here in the North Carolina area. So we're going to get in, man. I think it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal. Once we get past these technical difficulties, right?
The technical difficulties, we're gonna go ahead and already say they're gone, that we ain't gonna have to worry about it. But I think that's when the most important messages come out, when it takes a while for us to get settled. We do this pre-check and everything checks out, and then it's like all of a sudden I can't hear, or these things happen. So it's gonna be a great deal today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you back in. Hey David, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry about that. I'm having to go pick somebody up, and it connected to my car, and it just messed everything up.
Oh, gotcha. You're good. So Free's going to go ahead. My co-host Sarita's going to go ahead and introduce you, and then we're going to go in, brother. We're going to let you have a little time to share a little bit more information of what you may want people to know about you, and then I'll follow up behind that with I'm in Charlotte. I have my little man with me, you guys, and then with the loved ones. So, but we're going to do it that way, brother, and then we'll bring you in, and then come back in. All right.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of David Blackwelder. His goal is to protect all the citizens of Wake County, placing public safety over politics. He's always championing school safety and mental health resources for our children. He wishes to continue the passion for school security by increasing protections at our public schools and mentoring our youth. He also believes that our senior citizens deserve the utmost respect and should be looked after whenever possible. This is why he would like to protect seniors with an automatic calling system which will provide welfare checks and community engagement. He's also passionate about criminal justice reform and breaking the cycle of criminality. He would also implement higher education training opportunities and job fairs within Wake County Jail, providing inmates with the opportunity for change. He believes in government transparency and accountability, which is part of elected officials to follow through with the needs of the community. He would also implement policy changes to curb discriminatory practices and reduce criminal recidivism.
Recidivism.
I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't say that word right. But I think just in just knowing that in general, it's an honor to talk to someone that is about the community and really about the growth from the elders all the way down to those that need the most help because they can't help themselves, and then those that need help because they might have made a choice or a decision as a youth and not allowing that to get in the view of their life. You know what I'm saying? Giving them that chance for change, that onset. And so I appreciate you coming to the cool spot today and just kind of shedding light and allowing us to get to know you, and also allowing, the community that posts the field to be able to ask those questions in not such a public forum, so that we all can kind of grow and build together. So we thank you, we welcome you, and let's get to it.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, Brother David? He's driving. He may freeze up.
I think he froze. It's okay though.
Come on.
Nope, anymore.
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you now.
Right. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to have this opportunity. I think you do great work, and it's important to be able to sit down and have a conversation from different perspectives is very important. And obviously, I'm grateful you guys see the true message for criminal justice reform. That's very important to me because, everybody I believe deserves a second chance, and it's really trapping people and hurting a lot of people that want to do the right thing and want to overcome. And I just feel like that's one of the main things of my programs and my outreach to communities, because people shouldn't be punished for the rest of their lives for a mistake they made when they're like 18 years old. So, or even 16, it's just ridiculous. So I think it's just, we need to move forward and show people that we're trying to do the right thing and help the community. So.
Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree with that. And I think with what we're going to head, the direction that we're taking on with this discussion, I just want to set the premise, right? Because I don't want people to think this is a debate, right? So this is not a debate. This is a dialogue. This is a full-out discussion. I'm going to lay out my notes. I'm going to lay out my notes to you guys. Put it all out there on the line, because this is not structured as a debate. This is a full-out discussion. So no surprises, no hidden agendas, and nothing like that. This is a flat-out discussion. All right. So the direction that I want to take with this is getting started is to kind of give you guys a backdrop. This is going to be a bit lengthy, but I just need y'all to be with me. I think it's going to be important to know a lot of this information with the direction that we're headed with our society, the mindsets of our people, and just with the ability to make changes. I think we have to get back to the root causes of some things, right? In order to understand why we are where we are today. All right. So with that being said, I wanted to go back and Bro David, I sent you a video of a 1965 police versus community activist debate, and I thought that was a phenomenal video, free video too. It was a phenomenal video, and what was interesting was the fact that in Newark, New Jersey, right? One of the main focal points of the debate was in how in Newark, New Jersey, the police's focus in Black community was law and order without stopping crimes, right? And because the police believed that they were doing a job of the community wanted. So my question is this: who were the community if Black people didn't get help, right? So let's go a little bit deeper. From timeline, we're going to address the timeline between 1968 and 1969. 1968, the year of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassin, right? The crime rate spiked. I found an article online that gave like a full out layout of like the crime rates in different places, right? And it goes something like this: 125 American cities exploded in violence after King's death. In Washington, Johnson ordered 4,000 Army and National Guard troops to cordon off the White House. Nationally, 70,000 military service members and National Guardsmen were deployed in 29 states, all in which took a little over a year to settle, right? So let's look at some things here. The Black Panthers were on a rise, and the Gun Control Act of 1968 was enacted, which adopted new laws prohibiting certain people from owning guns, providing for beefed up licensing and inspections of gun dealers, and restriction of importing cheap Saturday night specials, which were pocket pistols, is what they called that back in the day, that were in some urban communities. What was some of the ongoing issues that was going on in the time? Well, Black people were frustrated due to the inability to expel racist cops from their communities. Meanwhile, 99% of cops were white and majority were racist. right? So the Black Panther Party created a 10-point plan that emphasizes these things, that addresses these things to come out of that, right? Their reason for their mission and their statement for the Black Panther Party was based around this 10-point plan, which encompassed freedom, right? Full employment, end of the robbery by the capitalists of our Blacks and oppressed communities, decent housing, fit for shelter of human beings, education that teaches true history and our role in present day society. All Black men to be exempt from military services, immediate end to police brutality and murders of Black people, freedom of all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Black people were brought to trial to be tried in court by a jury of their peer groups of people from their Black communities. As defined by the Constitution of the United States, they want they want land, they want bread, they wanted housing, education, they wanted clothing, justice, and peace. Right. Another movement popped up, which was the anti-war protesters, which was led by what became the Black hippie. I mean, the hippies. Right. So that then became partially an anti-racist movement called the White Panther Party. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Free. The White Panther Party. Right.
I
So
do know that. Did you know
yeah,
about that?
say what?
I did not know that. I'm going to definitely look
Yeah,
at that. That's
check
some
that out.
interesting
Check
knowledge
that
right
out
there.
because it was a response to Huey P. Newton and a speech that he said, well, what white people could do to help them out. They said, well, what you guys can do is start your own party that represents us, so we can all stand together. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
I think that's awesome, actually. I mean, I don't know about it,
yeah,
but it seems,
check it
it
out.
seems pretty,
It's the
pretty
White
cool.
Panther Party. Check it out. So
All right.
yeah, so in 1969, the Rainbow Coalition, founded on April 4th, 1969, which was the same exact date of Martin Luther King's death a year after, right? Led by Fred Hampton and other ethnic leaders. The coalition also brokered treaties to end crime and gun and gang violence, right? So December 8th, this was a highlight, 1969, 4 days after the assassination of Fred Hampton, which was one of the Rainbow Coalition, um, he was assassinated along with Mark Clark in Chicago, Illinois. The Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, and the introduction of SWAT, right? This was the formal introduction of SWAT was violently raided the Black Panthers Party's headquarters in Los Angeles, California. Here's a
Hey,
kicker.
let me go get Lily first.
And here's the kicker, which was in 1969, which is the bonus. Richard Nixon addresses his concern about the war on drugs, right? Um, which there's articles of the the transcript of a conversation that he had with J. Edgar Hoover on how they could actually kind of, conspire against the Black Panther Party. All of that stuff surfaced a little bit later. So,
mm,
1971, uh, the worldwide war on drugs campaign was launched to better govern drug usage in our society, right? But why do I bring this up? This is the bonus. Well, the war on drugs campaign was a global campaign led by the U.S. federal government. However, 2 years prior to this, Nixon had formally declared a war on drugs, right? 1969. So he said that would be directed towards eradicating interdiction, which was the interception of and incarceration. We find today that there were ulterior motives behind this war on drugs. So this is where the highlight of this, right? All of this that I just said. During 1994, there was an interview of President Nixon's domestic policy chief, John Ilrichman. Um, and he provided inside information suggesting that the war on drugs campaign had ulterior motives, which mainly involved helping Nixon keep his job. In the interview conducted by journalist Dan Baum, the publicist in Harper Magazine, L. Richmond explained that his campaign had two enemies: the anti-war left and Black people. His
mm,
comment, his comment. Check this out now, Free. His comments led many to question Nixon's intentions in advocating for drug reform and whether racism played a role. Here's the kicker.
mhm,
Elderton was quoted saying, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against war or being Black. But by getting the police to associate the hippies with marijuana and Blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt their communities. Watch this. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings and vilify them night after night on evening news, creating the net. Well, this was also creating the narrative of like a new normal we see today. But they did this knowing that they were lying about the drugs. And the guy asked them, "Well, did you guys know that you guys were lying? Did you know that Richard Nixon was lying about the drugs?" He said, "Of course we did. We all knew that from the instant." You know what I mean? But
Mm.
but the narrative, I feel like this became this became like a resurgence of the ghetto experience. This is just me in my mind how I process it, right? And how we were reconditioned because we were in a place where we were becoming free people, equal rights, the civil rights movement, the death of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You know what I mean? We had all these different other groups that came along on the scene, but where we were struck hard was the war on drugs campaign. All of the war on drugs campaign was something strategic, I believe, from the government to bring in more drugs, which caused drug wars in communities. Mind you, you already had racist cops that were governing our community. All the Black Panthers wanted was more control over our own community. So if we didn't like a cop that was in our community that was racist, that may come in, cuss out our kids, call them nigger and everything else, and completely just badger the people just out of the pure hatred of their heart. It was like the real frustration was the issue of the lack of control in our own communities. You know what I mean? And so the war on drugs actually caused a big divide in our own communities, on top of the racism that we already had to deal with by the police at the time. You know what I mean? So the prison pipelines increased. You know, the drug rates increased. What they I still say black on black crime, which I've been I've been stoned for saying black on black because they say, well, there's no such thing as black on black. I'm like, well, what do you call it? It's still the same thing. You know what I mean? So now I'm just like, okay, well, we have to go back and we have to address the root causes of certain things. It goes deeper than this, but I feel like for our era and where we are now today, this is the timeline that we have to go back and address. So for Black Lives Matter movements and for anybody that says that they're doing it for our people, if you're not addressing this timeline in our history, then you're not really doing it for our people. You know what I mean? So a lot took place here. And we have to be able to address this to help us realize why we are the way that we are today. What is it that I need to address? What did my parents experience? What did their parents experience? And we had to get back in the history to get back to it, right? So I know I said a lot, but do you guys want to add on to that before we go into the questions or any comments, responses?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of great points that if once you get people charged with a felony or something like that, it's going to be harder for them to get a job.
Right.
You have set them back the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you want to keep a group, like you said, if you're specifically targeting or have certain laws that certain more people use than others, like for example, like marijuana.
Right.
If you look at it now, I think it's from the age of 18 to 30. Black males are charged and typically incarcerated just for marijuana.
Right.
And if you look even in North Carolina, most of the court system it's flooded with charges for simple possession of marijuana. People it's harder for them to get a job. They're paying probation fees. I mean, you're taxing them. I mean, you're having to work extra just to pay off that fee. And if you don't, you're going to jail. You lose your license. So, I mean, it's something that can be changed that could easily have an impact instantly. Right. Like if you remove that blockage, I guarantee you're going to have more people in the workforce, which you're going to have a stronger tax base. You're going to get people out of poverty. That's another good thing.
Absolutely.
People are going to be able to go to school now because some people can't get into college because they have drug charges.
Right.
So, you're basically preventing people from, because everybody changes. I mean, a lot of people change. I mean, we all make bad decisions. You shouldn't be punished the rest of your life over something like that. And some people do it because they're forced to, because you can't get a job. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how many people I've met that are career criminals that do it because they can't get a job. I mean, it's sad. I mean, that why go work at Walmart when you can go sell drugs and make way more money and feed all your family and take care of
Right.
your, you know. So it's you're basically forcing people into a lifestyle that
Yeah.
normally wouldn't be in that position. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's something that was strategically set up back then, and to piggyback off what you said, it's set up because again, we had a podcast before and we talked about the prison pipeline and how there were major investors. You have people like Bill Gates that's an investor of the prison systems that have stock in the prison systems, and so a lot of people were presented with the opportunity to promote gun violence in our hip hop music, in our culture. When all of that, when we had a spike in all of that, majority of that took place only because these big investors was investing in the stock industry because uh, the prison system became, a commodity. It became something that people were actually making money off of. So if we can encourage our people to promote this kind of behavior, then our return on that investment is going to be great as investors. You know what I mean? So if we again go back to the timeline when the war on drugs took place, again, we have to see where we are and address what took place to get us to where we are. If we feel like our life is a curse, there's a reason why it's like that. It may be information that our parents passed down to us. It may be a lack of information that we've never received. You know what I mean? So I feel like this could be something that can help a lot of people out. So I think that's a good response though. That's a good response. Free, you want to add to that?
I do. So as we realize the history of it, right? So once we realize this is the issue, we go back, we find where it generated or where it started from. How do we promote that change now? Now we're here, right? We know that voting is essential, and voting is something that a lot of times in our community, at times it seems like, well, my vote doesn't count, it doesn't matter. And so as we push the narrative that voting does change things, it's important for us to have access to individuals like David that are like, hey, I'm here because of A, B, C, and D. But how do we reestablish that trust, right? Because so many people for generations have been taught that, you have some people that are taught, hey, you trust, and they're good and bad people and everything. And there's some people that are taught that you absolutely don't embrace, law enforcement or people that hold a certain esteem or a certain clout. So how do we begin to change that, right? I mean, I can sit here and say, well, of course, I teach my daughter, like, hey, they're good and bad people that do every job. We love them, we appreciate them. But when the news is always showing this spin of, oh, this happened today, or there's this type of violence, and it gets hard at times, or when they hear from other students, well, we don't like this or we don't like that. How do we break that stigma? What do we do to fix it?
Well, I think holding everybody accountable, and what I've seen is make people earn your vote. Like if you're voting a certain way, for like you always have, and you're not really as involved. I mean, it's mainly education. You got to know who you're voting for first of all. But for myself, I got frustrated because a lot of politicians just blow you off or just act like you don't matter. It's like, okay, that's fine. Then you work against them, and it's like. You want what I want in somebody, because I'm a citizen as well, is I give more respect to somebody that they may not agree with me, but they'll at least have the conversation.
Right.
There's plenty of people out there, and I've even defended the other side, and I mean, just because I know they're at least willing to come to the table and have the discussion, because to me that's important right now. It's so polarized and so people's going crazy that we're losing sight of we're all Americans. Okay. Right. People are struggling. People are hurting right now, losing their homes over this situation that we have now. That is unacceptable, in my opinion. And, if we're not working together, or at least doing like an 80-20 approach or something, we're never going to get anything accomplished. And guess who loses? We lose. And to the police part, a lot of people don't realize you can go on a ride along. I suggest everybody do that. Go on a ride along with a police officer, and they will ride you around. You can see what they do. A lot of it you're going to see is not what you think it is. The media loves to portray it a certain way, but
So let me ask you this, right? As a police officer, you said that we can do ride-alongs. Now, with the perspective of the culture, right? If you seen him talking to the police, you're considered like a snitch, right? What's your perspectives on that? Like, let's talk about the ride along. Let's just use that for a good example. 'Cause I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, just so we can see the other side of things. Like, what's your perspective on the idea of being seen with a cop being considered a snitch?
Tell them you're infiltrating. You're going from the inside. You're finding out what's going on. You're getting information.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
that's
I'm infiltrating. Leave me alone. I'm infiltrating. That's all you got.
right. Trying to figure this thing out. So I'm gonna ask you a serious question then. I'm asking a serious question. So, do you think as a police officer, you're asked too much of as an officer? Because you see the climate, you know the climate. We're in this Black Lives Matter movement. The George Floyd thing happened along with the long list of other um, Black people that were shot and killed by police officers. Do you think in the climate, or just in general, as a police officer, that police officers are asked too much of in their job description?
Well,
Yeah.
we're like a Swiss Army knife. Like, we are basically a counselor, a therapist, a first responder, a paramedic. We have to carry a gun. We're oftentimes having to be a parent in situations. Trying to parent even adults sometimes, which is sad. But you're also an advocate. But it's a thankless job. I mean, I think a lot of it is you have people that take it just because either A, they want the excitement, or they think it's a good job. In my opinion, you need people that are doing it because they are led to do it. They feel that they need to serve people. Like just from my background, I did it because I felt led to do it. Not everybody can say that, which is fine, but I just think you want somebody that is committed and looking at doing it because they want to serve, and you got to kind of find people. A lot of it needs to be police departments need to not just hire somebody because they need to hire somebody. They need to hire the right people. Also, I think that a way to solve that too is you need to recruit in the minority community and break that barrier, because you want people, like you said before, 99% of the police force was white.
Right.
How is somebody that, especially if you don't live there and you're interacting with people, they ain't going to trust you.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I mean, so you want somebody that looks like you dealing with you a lot of times, and they can often relate. And I think too, it's important to pay police officers more, because a lot of police officers can't afford to live in the city that they protect. And that's a problem, because then it's like, you don't have any ties to the community. You're just going in there, I don't care. I'll go hem these people up, It needs to be like some accountability there. Like, hey, I'll see you in church. And you're like, hey, man, what are you doing? What are you doing? I saw you stopping them. What are you doing? Those types of changes. And I think too, just having these conversations, people, the bad thing is in the media, a lot of people want to have an agenda or want to stir the pot a little bit, or try to, make it look bad. And a lot of people don't realize, like, if you look at it from a legal standpoint of what deadly force is or when it should be used, things like that, you would have a better understanding. Like, I believe like 99, I could be wrong, but I know it's up there, percent of the shootings are justified. And I think like
you said 99% of the shootings.
Yeah, something like that. 98, 99, something like that.
Oh wow!
You can fact check me. I'm pretty sure last time I looked.
Yeah, I had to fact check that.
And then, but I know this. Like, if you look, like, out of all of last year, I believe it was like 8 unarmed Black people were killed, and like 15 unarmed white people were killed. Right. The rest were armed or were attacking a law enforcement officer.
Right.
But if you look at the news, it would appear, Black people are getting systematically taken out, like that's all you ever see. And they label it as such: white police officer kills, unarmed Black man, So, but, but look, that doesn't mean an officer shouldn't be held accountable.
Right.
Like, I believe what I would do is the sheriff's office, and I think all police departments should do this. You have a database. Everybody can look online. You have that badge number, so that way it's not a name. You're not
Transparency Act, right?
Yeah, you have that badge number. You see what complaints they have against them.
Right. That was actually one of my questions, as far as to kind of see what 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 your thoughts were as far as like a transparency act that the public could actually have towards the police officers. Because you have a lot of what they call stray cops. Those that were fired but came back. They fired from either killing somebody, anything like that, and then they came back into a different department. So yeah, I wanted to get your thought, but you just answered that. Now, off the same subject, what are your thoughts about qualified immunity? Because like the qualified immunity, according to how I understand it, is the act have to be the same situation line for line in order for a cop to be deemed either guilty or not found guilty or not guilty. So, for example, if I read a story, well, actually, I was watching a video on this a while back, and the guy said that there was a lady in California, her and her boyfriend was playing in their backyards. And while they were playing in their backyards, the boyfriend, was just kind of play fighting or whatever, and at the pool, in front of the pool or whatever, in front of their kids. The neighbors thought they were actually fighting. So the neighbor called the cops. And when the cops came, they tried to arrest the boyfriend, although they were playing, and the girlfriend tried to justify that. So the girlfriend was saying, "Well, hey, your colleague is talking to my child. Let me go console my child, because that's a child. You shouldn't be talking to my child."
Mhm.
As she walked away from the cop, when the cop told her that, "Hey, you need to stand here and stand in front of me. Don't worry about that," she walked off on him. He grabs her, flips her upside down, and he drops her like almost on the head, but she kind of twists and landed on her like towards her neck and between the neck and her shoulders, and ended up fracturing the shoulder, right, and fell unconscious. Took him to court, and the cop was deemed not guilty due to qualified immunity because there were no other prior charges held against any other officers in their jurisdiction that was line for line the very same exact situation. So I'm like, that doesn't even make sense.
Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts about qualified immunity? How does that work?
Well, it's really what they're talking about is like sovereign immunity, which every government official, like you can't, like even the government or the state, it's like illegal, like trying to sue the government, things like that. They have immunity to where you can't do that. You can't sue them. So
Okay.
even like a state employee who's an accountant has sovereign immunity, right?
Okay.
It just depends on what acts that they do. Like, is it in the performance of their duties as an elected or not elected, but as a
Okay.
state, yeah, as the government, or is it outside of the scope of their duties? Like,
Mhm.
and it could be argued like was the force what they're going to look at? Was it reasonable? Was it
Right.
a excessive amount of force? Because if it was, it would be outside the scope of their duties, and they should have been sued or been liable for damages, in my opinion. But
Right.
you're going to have instances where, given the totality, or even that, because a lot of what the courts do is they give kind of lenience more so on an officer because we're having to make split second decisions.
Mhm.
Like at the drop of a hat, it could be life or death.
Mhm.
So they often give us more lenience, so to
Mhm.
speak, at a different standard.
Right.
But if you, I'm sorry, like if it's a young person that's not a threat and you drop them on their head, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, but just from hearing
Oh
that,
no.
that doesn't really sound very reasonable to me. But I mean, it would just have to depend on the
Right. But he
circumstances.
got away.
Yeah, but you already have legal rights that you can sue under. Like if somebody violates your constitutional rights, you can sue them. Excessive force, you can sue them already. I think that the more the sovereign immunity type situation that they're talking about, that's more of just a talking point, because even the accountants have that, or even like
Right.
the governor, everybody has that
Right.
in government. So and two, if you did it, let's say you did waive sovereign immunity, you could be sued for countless, like you would spend your entire time in court. You would be getting sued left and right,
Right.
because of all the different torts that you can be sued for. I mean,
Right.
if you limited the scope of the sovereign immunity, like for example, certain things you could be sued for, that would be different. But if you just waive it completely, I think that wouldn't be appropriate, because
Right.
you're just basically going to open them up to, like, for example, okay, like for a battery, like a tortious battery for assault, or not assault, but a battery, right? You could have a hat in your hand, and I knock the hat out of your hand. I could be sued for essentially because it's connected to your body, for being sued like I hit you, and you could sue me for that.
But wait a minute now, because we have a lot of videos, cop videos, like police footage, whether it be body cams or footage from their vehicle, where cops use excessive force, like just when they just come with something simple as maybe a broken headlight, a tail light, or whatever. I don't know. Just and when person gets out the car, cop snatches them up, use excessive force, slams them on the ground. I mean, stuff like that. It's just off of what I guess where do we draw the line with that, right? Between the sovereign immunity, like you said, and excessive force. Like how do we weigh that out?
It depends on the totality of the circumstances is what it's called, and like it also depends on I think a main way to resolve a lot of those traffic stop issues is more along the lines of education. A lot of people are nervous, like when you stop them, because they see the news, they are like, I don't want to be next. You know what I mean? They're freaking out. I need to get out of here.
I don't even keep my wallet in my pocket when I travel. I take my wallet out and I put it in my little cup holder thingy. You know what I mean? And I don't keep it in my pocket. I'm not reaching for my pocket. No.
Yeah, no. I mean,
anything.
Right.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I was saying, like he said, I don't reach for anything. Like literally, it's almost a situation of being petrified, regardless of knowing, like I don't have anything on me, I'm not doing anything wrong. I think, like you said, it's that thought process of, oh my God, I'm gonna get stopped. But I've also not gotten a ticket because the officer was like, thank you for not looking at me like I was gonna do something horrible to you. Thank you for working with me. I'm gonna let you go. Thank you. And I was like, all right, thank you.
Right.
But I mean, I think everybody's at that point of being scared. And I think the narrative is if officers are trained, right? We're not trained. So it's a known thing that we are scared because of what we see on the news. So we're scared and we're untrained. I guess it's almost a thought of why isn't more accountability put on the police officers in certain situations. And yes, we get every situation in a bad situation. They're not going to show the good situations. Unfortunately, that's the news. They're going to show the bad stuff and they're going to beat it up. But in those situations, it almost feels like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. And we want to change that. I have to tell my daughter, I remember my daughter's 7. I remember when she asked me when she was like 4, she's like, do we like the police officers? And I was like, yes, baby, we do. Because if something happens, we're calling. And I was just like, but again, there's that good and bad with everybody, everything and everybody and everything that's done. There's good people, there's bad people. She's the person that in the store, she's like, excuse me, Mr. Police Officer, can I give you a hug? And I'm like, I'm not taking a picture to broadcast that. She loves them. We love them. Like, it's not something that we have to overly broadcast. Like, we have to just let people be people and understand it's okay. Like, we all have a fear and we all are trying to work through that. So, like, how do we, on a larger scale, work through that, even when some officers that do speak up are being slapped on the hand or they lose their job when they speak up about certain situations. Like it was an officer that spoke up on the George Floyd situation. And he was just saying like, he was very detailed on like, okay, if he's already detained, he's on the ground, A, B, C, and D shouldn't have happened, right? Just from he's already detained, he's not a threat. He was put on administrative leave for 2 months and then he lost his job. So it's like, what do you say or what do you do? Because now he was an officer of color, and so now it's just like, well, why did he lose his job behind speaking out? But just like many jobs, we know that you sign these rights and waivers saying you're not going to talk to the news, you're not going to talk to these different people, and we don't think about these things every time before we start with companies. Mm-hmm. So, at what point do we have an equal ground where it's okay to have conversations and officers don't have to be scared to speak up about their thoughts and feelings?
You make an excellent point with the whole cancel culture is what I call it. I mean, it's getting kind of out of hand where you can't even say anything anymore. And you get, it's happened to me, and I was defending a black woman and, they came after me and it's like, good God, it's like, I'm trying to have the conversation. I thought that's what we wanted to do here, but,
right.
But it needs to go away because you're all, like, that is not helping anybody. You're basically separating people, segregating people. because it's like you're trying to come together and do the right thing, and then it's like you're going to lose your job, or that just makes you where you're like, if you take somebody's job just for speaking out or trying to say something, you're creating somebody that's probably not going to be very fond of the other side
Right.
at all. You're creating enemies instead of friendships, building a bridge, so to speak. But back to your other point, I think humanizing the badge, that is what we need to do. We need to humanize the badge. So look, we're all people here. I have a, do my thing. We're all the same here. It's just I carry a gun and try to, protect people. But I think doing it where you have the community involvement and have certain people assigned to that, to where, look, you are allowed to go in to talk to these people, open conversation. I don't care what you say, as long as you're not saying death to America or something crazy like that. But as long as you're in there, be real with people, because I think that's what people want. They just want to know they have a voice, number one. They want to know, too, that, they're being heard. And three, look, I'm not right all the time. I'll admit that. I probably I'm like probably Joe Biden sometimes and say some stuff I probably shouldn't say. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm a person just like you guys. We're gonna. I'm being real with it. So it is what it is. So
So you said something there, bro, David. Humanizing the badge. How do we gain that perspective when we have cops that still haven't been tried for the Breonna Taylor situation? So
well, that creates a lot of problems because, and I haven't really, from what I've seen from it, because I haven't reviewed all of it, but from what I have seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, they had a warrant that I think was to the house.
Yeah.
And I guess he shot at them and they returned fire and it went in and killed Breonna Taylor, right? Is that?
Yeah, it was the wrong house. They had the warrant for the wrong house, and when they went to their house, they tried to.
They didn't announce themselves.
They didn't announce themselves. That's what it was.
So,
and started shooting first, and then they returned fire.
They thought somebody was trying to break in or somebody was attacking them, and so it was a thing about, was it excessive force? The fact that like she was shot 8 times, the length of time that it took for her to get medical treatment. Even with him, because I want to say he was grazed as well. I can't remember all the specifics of him, but then like he was locked up and tried for, I think the charge was maybe like attempted murder or something with the police officer. It was something very, would seem very excessive, I guess, of a charge potentially. Like they added, like he knew specifically it was a cop and he was being malicious rather than him defending his home because he's feeling someone's coming in.
Yeah. And that's his right. I mean, I'd tell everybody, you got to be armed sometimes. I mean, just because of stuff like that, you got to protect your home and your family at the end of the day. So, from what I saw, it depends on if it was a no-knock warrant, which, it could have been, it could not have been. That would be a factor. Let's say it wasn't. If it wasn't let's say if it was a knock and announce warrant and they didn't do that, that right there is a no-go.
Well, that's what the report said, I believe. They didn't, nobody heard, like, even, okay, so if we're in the bed sleep, somebody knocks on the door and, it wasn't polite. I don't think he would have came out with a gun if it was a polite knock on the door. You know what I mean? Like, hey, police here, can you open the door? I don't think that was the situation. I think it sounded like they were trying to kick in the door and, and it kind of happened that way.
Yeah, like if on the warrant they were supposed to knock and announce, which is that's usually the standard. It has to be some aggravating factors, like they're potentially armed or something like that, or violent, to be a no-knock, right? So if it was where they had to knock and announce and they didn't, and then they just kicked in the door, then that's on them, man. Because it's. And I get it. You're just ready, amped up because, I enjoy that stuff. Kicking indoors is fun to me, but at the same time, you got to do it right. You can't violate somebody's rights. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're the worst person in the world. You got to do it right because they have rights too. I'll defend anybody's rights to the end. I don't care who they are, period, because they are a person. They may make bad choices, but they have rights. You know.
Right. So again,
Um,
like a humanizing the badge piece, like I think that was a big statement, and I think that there's going to be a lot of conflict with a lot of the viewers with that statement. You know what I mean? Like humanizing the badge, like we got these different deaths and murders, and innocent people that died and lost their lives and everything else. And I'm just like, yeah, but I can't give it. I don't have an explanation for that. You know what I mean? Because I'm not in that position. I don't have the knowledge and I'm not in that position to answer. You know what I mean? So how do we address that then for people that have that statement or
I,
comment?
I think what I would do is just say, look, bad things and like let's look at it from a cop perspective, right?
Mhm.
Let's say they in two. Well, let me back up. So with it being the wrong address and they shouldn't have been
Mhm.
there, that's another you're in the wrong.
Right.
So if anything, they would probably, depending on the situation, because even though if it's wrong and somebody's shooting at them, they can return fire because you're protecting yourself from bodily harm at that point.
Right.
But when you shoot an innocent person, you own that bullet, every bullet. And if you miss and hurt somebody, that's on you.
Mhm.
So they should be held accountable for that because you're shooting into and see, I wasn't there. It could have been he hid behind her and used her as a human shield for all I know. I don't think that's the case, but let's say he was just in the hallway shooting and they shoot and just shooting, just not even thinking, and it goes into another room and kills somebody, then they should be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's the wrong warrant and if it was supposed to be a knock and announce and they didn't do that, that's on them. That to me is unacceptable. Period. I don't care who you are, but that would need to be to have the conversation of break it down and look.
Mhm.
If somebody's in the wrong, they need to be held accountable. They need to be shown in the wrong. I mean, that's how we move forward. For people
Yeah.
to trust you, you got to be like, look, yeah, he was wrong. And guess
Yeah.
what? He's going to pay the price.
You got to pay for that
Sorry.
because I can see how they could also change the narrative and say, well, yeah, it was a knock and we actually knocked and announced ourselves, and from that point, that can probably give them a little bit more leeway with possibly trying to get away with it. You know what I mean? But so let me ask you another question, right? So when is violence the answer in policing? Because we got a lot of violence. We get a lot of violence from police officers. But when
Yeah.
is that the answer?
Uh, uh, I've always tried to avoid it because, to me, why am I going to A, almost hurt myself, and B, I have to do a report on it.
Right.
So why do I want to do that? And two,
Mhm.
I've found just from talking to people, I've gotten a lot further than having to put my hands on somebody.
Right.
Um, sometimes there is no other choice, but you have to do it. But I think teaching people how to talk to people and engage with people and understand different cultures and how to interact with people is
Mhm.
how you solve that. Because I can talk to anybody, because I've just grown up in a very different environment probably than most, but I'm used
Mhm.
to communicating with different diverse communities, so to speak.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of
Mhm.
other people are not. They're a police officer that grew up probably in, let's say, I'm going to throw Cary under the bus because I
Yeah.
moved there, so I can say that. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
they grew up in Cary, okay, which kind of is not as diverse,
Echelon,
into what?
the upper echelon of
Yes,
town.
yeah. The golf club, they're in there, doing their little thing with their boat shoes on and stuff,
Mhm.
so they may not have been used to dealing with other different cultures or as many.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, they're not going to be able to communicate effectively if you put them in, let's say, Southeast Raleigh,
Right.
dealing with somebody. They're not going to know how to, they're going to be like, look, I'm in charge. You shut up. No,
Mhm.
you need to talk to them like a human being. Okay.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times officers will escalate the situation. I'm like, and we've all been there. I've had
Right.
somebody show up. I'm like, God, like, because
Yeah.
I know they're going to pump it up, and it's like, I know them, they know me. It would just normally
Right.
be like, hey, man, turn it
So
down,
can you give
okay?
me so can you give me like two examples of when uh violence is the answer from the police?
I would say if it's where they're going to be violent or harm somebody else, or sometimes you have to grab somebody, like if they're freaking out or something, like, or you have to pull them out of the car or something like that when it could be dangerous. something like to that level. It needs to cross that threshold of they are going to be violent or cause violence to somebody else, or you just have to take control quickly. But the level of violence would be different, like grabbing somebody by the arm and hold on one second. Sorry, my dog is going crazy. Stop. Get up there. Sorry about that. A different level of violence, like grabbing somebody by the arm and telling them, hey, listen, that's different, as opposed to grabbing somebody, like you said before, and slamming them on their head and killing them.
Right.
That right there is totally different. And if you do something like that to where you're going to slam somebody and potentially kill them, it better be a good it better be that they were trying to kill somebody or rape somebody or kill you or whatever, because that right there, I saw a video that happened in Wake County Jail. Completely unacceptable. That person, I believe they were charged, and rightfully so, because they basically picked up an inmate and did a whatever you call that wrestling move, flipped him down and slammed him on his head. I was like, you gotta be kidding. Are you really? I saw that. I was like, I just can't right now, because I was so upset, because now the good police officers, we have to answer for that. People aren't going to trust us now or even be violent towards us because of that.
Right.
You wanted to go do some idiot. I don't know who trained you to do that.
Right.
Probably nobody. And now we have to. That's the bad thing, is we have to answer for it. We take 2 steps forward in the community. That situation, now we're taking 2 steps back. We're back to the drawing board because of stupid things. And you just gotta make sure you hire the right people. It can't just be these cowboys out there, cowgirls, ready to go gunsling. No, it needs to be people that, like I said, they want to serve. It's like a business model almost. Yes, ma'am. How can I help you? Yes, sir. How can I help you? What do you need? You want me to change your tire? I would love nothing more than to change your tire. Do what?
Supposed to be like Chick-fil-A. Okay, it's a pleasure.
Exactly. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So, I grew up in Garner, and I feel like for the most part, we had a great relationship with our police officers. I know I love my police officer that was at our middle school. So I talked my way into being able to go to challenge camp. I don't even know if they still do it, but challenge camp was this 2-week camp that the police officers did for children that could be deemed at risk. And so somebody didn't want to go. And so I talked my way, and I was like, I walked out of class. I was like, Officer Myers, let me go. And he was just like, no. And I was like, so literally, because somebody didn't go, I was able to wing my way in. But the beautiful thing about the camp was to see that these were really children that were like, oh my gosh, y'all are far out there. And they were really trying to grasp them and pull them back in. Let me show you something different. Let me show you that as a community, we care. You know what I'm saying? And none of the officers look like me. But didn't treat any of us any differently. It was a mixed group of children. I want to say it was only 3 girls, and it was 3 girls, it was 3 of us, and then it was 10 boys. And like I said, it was a 2-week camp. We went whitewater rafting, we went camping, we went and did these things. We went canoeing, things I would have never been exposed to. Not that I came from a bad place, but my parents were just like, let's go canoeing. It wasn't something they were going to do. But I think those type of programs are very important. And even with that group, I still know one of those individuals I was in camp with still went astray and did something different. But at least they had that ability at the age of 12 to know that, hey, everyone's not a good person. That cops do appreciate you, they do respect you, and this is how we can go. And so I think a lot of times, even when we see these articles with resource officers, overstepping or potentially hindering relationships or not, everyone needs to repent. I think that these conversations are essential. But my thing is, does it need to get to a point where the states are calling out or saying this case is the model case? This is where we said this was unacceptable. This is what we did, and we want you to know. Because a lot of times cases are handled without the general population knowledge. So we don't see when the cases get solved, or we don't see when that cop music sets the force with a black man in front of his kids, how he was reprimanded. We just see the ones that make the news. And so is that something that maybe like on a county level, on a state level, that they should say, hey, we understand that there's frustration in the community, and we want to show you a case where this is what we did, so that you are aware that we're not just trying to like accuse you and saying we know, or we're not just trying to brush it under the rug. Like, do we need to have more representation like that for it to be reassuring to the community?
I think is for cases like that, when it's pending, a lot of times you have to be careful, because you don't, like when you see in Atlanta where they came out and just like, you had the DA, he lost election, and he basically tried him, threw him under the bus right there on national TV, and the mayor did, and see, now they're getting sued for that. So you have to be careful, when you're doing certain things as far as explaining them. Now, do I think that once the case is resolved and you're like, look, this is how it went out, there's been a lot of, absolutely, and there needs to be people in the courtrooms or hold the DA accountable. Look, we want to know about this. We want information. And I know for, our current Wake DA, I know she's very involved in the community. I may not agree with some of her politics. However, she brings people in. If you have a question, she will answer it. If you want to know about a certain case that's questionable, I know she does it all the time. For like the stuff that's been going on in Raleigh lately, she will answer it, the best that she can. So, to me, I think that is important. That is very important. And, even though some of her other views I may not agree with, I do respect the fact that she does that, because that is what is needed. You know what I mean? So, and I think too, back to the SRO thing, I was SRO for a while. I enjoyed it, because like you said, a lot of the kids that I would deal with are on the fence. They're the ones that you can save. You are saving lives when you are helping those children that are on the fence make the right choice, learn to go the other way. That is that is something I love. And, I'm going to plug my friend Sean here, Sean Ingram. I worked with him.
Hey, he's a poet.
Do what?
Yeah.
Is that the same one as a poet?
Yes, we know Sean Ingram.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I'm plugging him right now. Sorry, man.
Shout out to Sean Ingram.
I'm on the board, so I gotta plug him when I can. So
yeah, he's doing good things in the community too. Good guy.
He's my brother, man. So I gotta give him a shout out. But he works with a lot of kids and mentors them, and I think that is where we need to go. That is what we need to do, because, like you said, you changed your mind from that camp. You saw the other side, and too, it was beneficial. You're able to do a lot of things that you normally wouldn't have been able to do. And I think that is where we need to go. That to me is very important. Like, we need to have a lot of those programs. And two, I like it that when people in the community do those, because, a lot of times, like Sean, I say this all the time, like, people will listen to him before they'll listen to me a lot of times. A lot of those kids, especially if they're kind of working through things or they don't trust the police, they'll listen to Sean and he'll tell them, what are you doing? You don't do that,
Right.
So I think that's a good resource, is when you have law enforcement working with people like that, that will have that influence in the community to be able to do the right change, or, do the right thing. So
I want to ask you that real quick, because that was one of my questions. Can police create a partnership with reformed criminals? Because we know Sean Ingram, he's a reformed criminal. He's gone through the system and everything, and he's cleaned himself up, and now he's giving back, right? So, can the police create a partnership with reformed criminals to assist in areas with high gang activities?
Absolutely, 100. That to me, and see, there was actually a federal program which didn't get as much funding, which hired people like that to be what I would call, well, there's a different name for them, but what I would call them, and I would like to do a program similar if the county will let me, is call them like community captains, where they are in the community doing that outreach. Because, I mean, there is gang problem. Don't let people fool you now.
Yeah.
So they can get in there and they will listen to them, because they've been through it. They've been out of prison. They're out of prison. So those are the most effective people, in my opinion, because they've been there, done that. They've lived the story and changed for the right reasons. And I think it's a testimony to other things. I'm not going to, but to me, it's powerful. It's more like it's like a ministry almost. Like they typically have changed their lives for the better for a certain reason. And I think that is very important to show people the way of how to change their lives. Yeah. And I'm all about that. If somebody has reformed themselves and want to help for the better and use that for the good, I'm all about that 110%. I think that's the direction we need to go in. So
right. So you think, because I know you're running for sheriff. You're campaigning right now too. You looking to get, the sheriff's seat and everything. And could that be something that we can implement? Like, could that be something that the current person in position can implement, or is that something that you could actually put together if all goes well?
Yeah, I mean, if he did it, I would say good job. Great. I hope he steals my idea. That'd be fantastic. I would be all about that. Hey, go for it, buddy. Hey,
Right.
I would do it.
He might be watching right now because you're on here right now, so you might be.
People are watching that like, yeah. What the?
Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah. Hey, any candidate, if they want to steal it, go for it. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I know my chances of winning. So the main thing is getting change. Politician or not, it's about doing the right thing and getting change. So there's been several laws, because I do other things that have been passed that people don't know about that help the community. So, it's all about making change. I don't care if I'm elected. I mean, I want to be just so I can actually make change instead of relying on somebody else. But at the end of the day, if change is getting accomplished, then that's a win for me. I'm fine doing what I'm doing. So, it's about making the change. And
okay, good. So I'm going to ask you this, and we're going to address that right there. First, I want to ask you. Well, matter of fact, let me ask you this first, because I'm going to go back to what you just said with being elected. But what does defunding the police look like? Because I know that's been something that's been in the air. Right? So what would that look like?
Well, to me, defunding is just going to make it worse because you're not going to be able to hire decent people. You're going to get the people that probably shouldn't be in law enforcement, in my opinion, and you're going to have it probably become less. People are not going to care as much anymore type of situation because they're like, they don't care about us. I'm just going to ride around and drink my coffee and, watch Netflix, and that doesn't help anybody. I think just changing policies. And look, a lot of cops I know, they don't agree with like the whole having a counselor show up or a social worker or, things like that. I disagree. I
disagree too. Right.
Yeah. I think, if it's one thing to take a police officer position, which I think you just need to add on to it, be in addition to, because the counselor, look, I'm not a counselor, you know what I mean? Right. I do the best. I wing it, I'm just like, hey, let's talk. A counselor is trained to do that.
Right.
So why not? I mean, if it's safe for them to go in there, that's less stuff I got to do. Let them, by all means, go right in there, as long as it's safe for them. Or two, I like the new thing that Wake County EMS is doing. They're now responding to calls and do CIT and do mental health evaluations. I'm all for that. They do an excellent job. They have people that are passionate about it.
That's good.
And I think officers should do that training as well. However, I think somebody that is their job, like they went to school for, that is what they're passionate about. That should be the person working in conjunction with police, because ultimately, and same thing with the school, a lot of people with SRO, you're there to advocate and to prevent an active shooter. You're not there to go hem everybody up and charge them. And no, you are there for an active shooter, and you're there to mentor people and change their lives.
Right.
And I think when you start putting people in these certain positions that you just kind of hide them or try to get them out, you know what I mean? Like that's not how it should be. It needs to be, you put the right person in the right position. And if that's a social worker helping you, that's what needs to happen. And I'm all for that because it just needs to be additional, not in my opinion, removing and having them in place. Because you need more police, just like you need more counselors, you need more people for mental health workers, things like that. So,
right. So I got another question. I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit, but what could we do about where is it? can we have like an alternative to cases like panhandling and pay citizens to clean the community? Like, you have a lot of people that get kind of caught up in that. But or can we do something like that to help the people in the community instead of locking them up for them just trying to make an honest living? Not an honest.
I am
I
all
won't
for
call it honest living, but they trying to make their way to make money. Put it that way.
I have no problem giving somebody, and I'm sure you'd be paying them a minimum wage, but I have no problem doing that if they're going to work for it. So I think that is an excellent opportunity. I did a post on that. It was a while ago. That there's a city. I can't remember what city it is now, but they actually are doing that. They are paying them a wage to go clean up the side of the road and to clean up the community.
That's good.
I mean, I think that's awesome. And I think do it in neighborhoods that need it. That look, because I do believe in like they call it like the broken window theory, or go in a lot of these communities and clean up communities and help paint and fix up the houses, and just kind of create where people care, like because a lot of people, I feel like they're in those communities and they just stop caring, and they're like, there's no way out or anything. Well, have them where they start being where if their house is fixed up or their community looks nice, they're going to be more likely to defend that neighborhood. Right. They're going to be more likely to call the police. They're going to want to keep the drug dealers out, keep out the crime, because they're like, you ain't messing up my place. You need to get out of here with that. So that is, I think that we should definitely do that, because you're also getting that homeless person a job. You're giving them value in their life. And guess what? They're not always going to do that. They may use that as a stepping stone to start their own lawn care business. Who knows?
Right.
So I have no problem. If people are working to better themselves, they should get that. I have no problem with that at all. And to me, it's like, we're going to spend millions of dollars. I like parks. I like, art centers and stuff, but those millions of dollars could have been used to reinvest in something like that, or something like these community advocacy programs, things like that would actually change society.
Right. But that's definitely something possible that we can implement that and kind of include that in some kind of policy, maybe local government. I don't know how would that work out. Like, would that be something we can do this locally, statewide, or like how would that work?
I would think that something like that would, I think on the local level, I believe in, that's why I'm probably, I'm probably not going to say that, but the local level is always better. It has more effect on you, and people don't realize that it has more effect on your life than these other issues. And locally is where these people are local. I want them cleaning neighborhoods. I want them going out and doing certain things in neighborhoods to increase home value, to increase people accountability. And two, check this out. If they're out there, they may even call the police. Who knows? If they see something going on, that's another good thing. If they see a crime, it may even reduce crime. Or if people see them, they may be less likely to commit a crime.
Right.
So, and two, another thing, like if you have clean, like nice community areas, is less likely crime will be committed in those communities, because people usually go to areas that they can hide, that it doesn't really have a presence, or this like less security or whatever there. So, I think if you just change that dynamic, you're going to have a lot of change. You're going to see the crime rate go down, in my opinion.
Right.
And two, it's going to increase home values, help people's lives, help homeless people. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. I don't know why it's not being done, but yes, on the local level, I think because you're going to have more change implemented locally. You know what I mean?
Right. That's good. So, contact tracing. Well, let's just use this word. Trail audits. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that. Well, now, so you remember the case that happened in Wilmington, with the cops that were talking about killing black men and stuff like that, and then they were actually picked up in a recording with, whoever was doing that, and then it kind of surfaced, and then they got fired by the chief. So I learned that's what they call a trail audit, right? And they can actually tap into your system, whether it be your camera system, your body cam, or even your vehicle, the camera in your vehicle, and kind of just tap in to kind of do like an audit right there on the spot. How often does that happen, though? Is that a common thing in Wake County? Let me ask you that. Is that a common thing in Wake County?
I think it depends on the department. I know some do, some don't. And it could have been too, like, a lot of them have the ability, they just don't do it. And I don't, in Wilmington, it could have been they were alerted to this person, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you might want to check out his stuff. Not, just that type of thing, which is the right thing to do, because if I heard somebody say that as a cop, I mean, all cops watching this just know I would turn you in if you said something like that too. So, if it's, it should be a policy, and see, that could be something pushed on the local level as well. Go in there and say, we demand that you do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that should be done. I mean, and look, it shouldn't be like Big Brother's always watching you. It should be there for occasionally, just for accountability, just to make sure that we hired who we thought we hired.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I look at too, is like, how could we, the people, bring change to how the system is set up in the police force? That ability, and I say we should, because I mean, it is our tax money that's paying the dollars. You know what I mean? And not saying, I don't want to be the one to say, oh, y'all work for us, so you should be doing what we tell you to do. I don't think it should be that way, but I think that we should have more control. Again, going back to the 1968, all the movements that happened back then in the 60s, that's what a lot of the frustration was about. If we're paying the monies for the protection and everything else that you guys claim, then we should have more control over how we govern ourselves, or how you guys should be able to help us. We have needs. So why is it the people are not, I don't know if people are or not, because I haven't done this part of the research, but why don't we have a bigger voice in how the system is ran in the police force?
Well, you're right. I mean, and that's how it needs to happen. And he's like, a lot of people like, okay, so like a community advisory board. Okay. Do I think that it should be where they can subpoena records and look, watch the tape before it goes to trial? No, because that's going to, cause whole types of legal issues.
Right.
But at the same time, should a community board be there to say, look, this is what's going on. We would like to see this taken care of.
Right.
I am all for that, because you know what? You're there to serve them, or this is their needs. You need to serve it. So, there should have that input. But the problem is you'll have a lot of people that aren't involved. Like, a lot of people will voice themselves, but at the end of the day, they're not there to help, or they're not there to be in those meetings. They're not there to, do those things. And I get it. Everybody has jobs. Everybody works. I mean, I get it. You can't make every meeting, but I think there needs to be people dedicated to that's what they do. Like, they have the time to do that, and then they can relay that information to whoever. Or like you said, the team captain type, or team community captain type situation. The people in the community get to tell them what they want to see, and then they relay that to the police department.
Right. And shout out to everybody that's doing it, because I know there's a couple groups that I'm familiar with. There's a lot of groups in Wake County. I think there's probably about 12, 14 groups in Wake County alone, on the Triangle. I can't think of all of their names, but I know Raleigh Pack is one of them. I know Fayetteville Pack is another one. There's a bunch of them. I get notifications and stuff, and I can't think of all the names right now. But shout out to everybody. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but I feel like we should be further along than where we are today, at least on a local level. You know what I mean? With all the different ideas, the community activists, shout out to all the activists that are out there. This is not a one-sided conversation. You know what I mean? We see both sides. We just try to hold a biased position. So shout out to everybody that's doing the work. And I feel like, just like the video that I sent to you about the police having a debate with the community activists, I think that we need that. We need that. I mean, I'm gonna hit you across the head live. If you're okay with that, with getting a couple colleagues together to have something like that, I think it'd be phenomenal.
Hey, I'll do that anytime, man. I get invited all the time, as you probably, I guess you kind of experienced that a little bit. I'm not going to say any names, but I get invited multiple times for people like yourself trying to do the right thing, that want to have that dialogue, and I'm here.
Yeah, gotcha.
They won't be there, but I'll be there. So.
Right. Gotcha. But I got you. So just make sure it's on record. We're going to work on that. We're going to try to get our community activists to come together, along with the cops to have a structured dialogue. Some people don't feel comfortable with saying the word debate. Tomato, tomato, oranges and apples. I guess however you want to look at it. It's all the same to me. I'm abstract, right? So,
Yeah.
well, I think it'll be something that's very much needed, especially on local levels, because locally everybody has different petitions that they want to bring forth, and if we can actually come together locally, along with the leaders that are the ones that are sitting in the courthouses and they're talking to the judges, they're talking to different people, the community organizers. Like, it's important. We need that. Um, I myself, I'm not. I guess it's something that I'm growing into. I would love to be somebody that can be more of a moderator, and that'll give me a chance to really brush up on a lot more local issues,
Mhm.
and to be better prepared for that. So I think that'll be really really good discussion, really good discussion.
Oh yeah, and two, I think not even a debate. Just like we don't even engage each other. It'll just be you ask a question, I answer a certain way, they answer a certain
Yeah,
way.
it's a certain way.
I have no problem. Any form, any type of thing you want to do. I mean, it needs to happen. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody. I don't care who it is. I'll have the discussion with them because I feel everybody has some value. Even though, even if it's somebody I disagree with 90%, there's that
Mhm.
little 10% that we have something to talk about.
Right.
And even and two, there's a lot of community activists out there. I'm not gonna say names because I don't embarrass anybody that I
Right.
talk
Right.
to.
Right.
A lot of people be surprised who I actually talk to, because I think it's important to talk to those people. And I mean, that's how it should be. We
Yeah.
may not agree on anything, but guess what? I'm still not going to look at you differently, or I still think that we're all, I'll be your friend. I love you. You know what I mean? We may not agree on anything, but I don't think I should hate somebody because of
Right.
that. Or
Absolutely.
I can't stand seeing that on the news or on YouTube where you see people just being hateful when
Mhm.
it's like, look, how's that solving anything? I mean,
Right.
it's not.
Right.
You're just creating an enemy. Why not go up to it? Like, I believe that's what, like Martin Luther King, or I saw the story where a guy that changed, he purposely goes around and befriends people who are Klan members. It's a black gentleman that does that.
Oh
He
yeah,
has,
the heavy set guy, the heavy set black
yeah,
guy. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
dude, that is God in action right
Yeah.
there. He is like,
Yeah.
I love you. You may hate me, but
Yeah.
guess what? I love you.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
he has gotten so many people to leave that thought, that train of
Mhm.
thought of that hate
Yeah. Yeah.
to, you know what? He even turned around and started defending the man. They were
Yeah.
calling
He
him out. And he's
did.
like, no, he is a good man.
Yeah. I seen that. I watched. I thought it was interesting. I won't lie. It was interesting. I
I think
said,
it's
but
amazing, man. It's awesome. It's all good stuff. It's all good
yeah.
stuff. I love
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff, man.
Yeah. Gotcha, man. But this was amazing, man. And again, thank you so much, man, for just taking this time out to kick it at the cool spot. You know what I mean? That's what we
Yeah.
like.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me. I think it's awesome. I think it's great, that you allowed me to have this opportunity. I mean, I think y'all are great.
Yeah.
Anytime,
Thank you, bro.
anytime you want me on, you let me know. I'll make time because it's I think y'all are great. So
Yeah, thank you. And again, you're plugging right now. I'm sorry, Free. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, but you're plugging right now. You campaigning, man. So, if you can, off the top of your head, share your highlights, because you're campaigning. How would you do that? This is, we usually give people 60 seconds to share, plug yourself, right? So we're going to do the same thing and share that same respect. 60 seconds to plug yourself. How would you do that? Go.
all right. Well, with that being said, I'd still talk to you even if it wasn't politically related, just because I like you guys. But
Yeah.
regardless.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. We didn't do the questions. We had a session for questions.
Oh, well.
We almost missed that.
Yeah, go ahead.
We almost missed that. So I'm sorry. So anybody have questions? We just completely. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
We do this sometimes. We don't post them. We're like, whoop.
Yep. So for our guests, for the viewers that are watching, we are live streaming right now on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. This is a live event. We also like to ask live questions from our audience. So if you guys have anything that you would like to ask our guest today, by all means, put them in the comment section. I don't know, Free, if you have your the watch party going, if you can see your own. I don't have anything going on my end.
Yeah.
So if you see
I
anything,
do not see anything posted as of yet. I do
but
know somebody
Samuel,
just asked a question in regards to it. So give me just one
yeah, so
second.
Samuel Blue, there you go.
You
Boom.
are running for Wade County Sheriff. The last two officials were well above your age. How do you connect to the older constituents?
Well, how
Question.
about? Well, I'm going to say this first. I'm going to say this first because I'm younger, but there's a difference in generations where I think the older generations believes a certain way and the younger believes a different way. However, connecting with them, I still can, especially the ones that have lived here for a while, because I have a somewhat southern accent, so I'm at least relatable that way, I guess, is what you could say. But I think just kind of listen. I think if you listen to people and just hear what their concerns are and kind of relate that way, is the best approach for anybody. But yes, do I have that young whippersnapper look that they're probably not going to be as relatable? Probably, but at the end of the day, all you can do is just speak your mind and hope people go with it. I mean, that's all it is at the end of the day. So
I
So I
think
have
it's
a
a
question. Go ahead, Free. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. You come across very approachable. That's hard for some people to do when you're not in front of them. You come across very like, oh, okay, talk to me. Come on, I don't care who you are. Let's talk about it. You want a hug? Here's a hug. Now let's talk. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't have. They don't have that common touch, that touch of, I'm not above you. I'm with you. Let's walk together. And that's the type of feeling that I think that you definitely present, and I think that's going to be an amazing thing. And that was pretty much a comment, not even a question. But we have another question.
Hey, I'll take it. Thank you.
The second part of the question is: one, police reform is a big issue today. How do you respond to someone telling you that law enforcement needs to be defunded versus reformed?
I think that there's always room for reform or change in anything. Now, as far as defund, I mean, it depends on what you're spending the money on. I mean, I am pretty fiscally conservative myself, but if change can be made or cuts in certain areas that aren't working and reallocated, I mean, that's appropriate. But I think the idea of no police, we'll just because if you look at like Seattle or Portland, those areas where they had those Chaz zones or whatever. They didn't have police there, and ultimately you saw people still with guns defending the border. I mean, it's like you're trading one for the other. And somebody even got killed there. There were rapes there. I mean, things are going to happen. People are not as nice as not everybody is nice, unfortunately. Right. You're going to have that criminal element of, that they're just going to do evil because they are evil. But, I think the reform piece is definitely something that does need to happen. And I think rebuilding the trust and showing, look, we're here to change it. We need to work together, though, to change it. I believe, called me off fashion, but I believe in the Knights of the Round Table type situation where we all sit down, we're all equal, let's talk. What do you want to see? It can't just always be, let's blame somebody. Let's say, no, let's sit down. Okay, what do you want? How do we work this out? Because I found a lot of people, if you ask them and, why do you think this way? A lot of times, a lot of people don't even know. It's just they just feel that way. And it's like, okay, well, tell me, how do we address it? How do we fix it?
And I think a lot of times, again, like in the South, we're programmed to think we have our views in the South. You know what I mean? We have a very, very traditional view of like, hey, we want to play the playing game. We want to regurgitate things that we've never questioned ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, there's no explanation to why we say certain things and why we do certain things. It's just what we were programmed to do, So that's just a good response. We got another question, Free?
There is another one. The Safe Policing and Safe Communities Executive Order was signed on June 16th for police reform. Up until now, why do you think only 2 states have actually put it into state law, Colorado and Connecticut?
Is that okay? So I think he's talking about the Trump executive order. That to me, I actually agree with that. I put that on my my reform thing, kind of cut it out and put it on there. And I even had people come against me, and I'm like, it was Republicans like, you're going against police. It's like Donald Trump just put that out there. What are you against him now? Or
Right.
you know, what I mean,
Right. What do you want me to do?
yeah, and that's why a lot of times people, oh, he argues, and it's like, no, I'm trying to make a point of Donald Trump did it. So are you against Donald Trump now? Or, you know, so it kind of changes things. Or like, you know, I'll put out some policies that I completely agree with, but it comes from the ACLU, and I'll give them to people on the other side of the aisle, and they're like, I can't believe you would do something like this. What, you're blaming people? It's like, oh, so you don't agree with the ACLU? Is that what you're saying now? Because last time I checked, you were all about the ACLU. So, you know, I think it's important to kind of flip things around and make people think. That's the ultimate thing, is people don't think.
Yeah.
For the love of God, just think about it. You know, stop going. And I get it, because I can get worked up, or if I'm very passionate about something, you know, I get it, you know, but at the same time, you just need to dial it back, think, you know, is this the right approach? Is this the right thing? Why is he saying this? You know, do you agree with it? Politics aside, you know, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, I don't care. Does it make sense? Does it work? If it does, great, let's do that. Let's go for it. So,
Question: why do you think that it's taking so long for North Carolina to put into law?
what do you think? For put what into law? The executive order?
Correct.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things of the law progresses. I mean, you know, as lawyers or legislative people, it's kind of like, what's going to be politically politically advantageous to me, or like, what's the problem of the day? How can I get political points for this? Is probably why. Or if it ain't broke, don't fix it type situation of, you know, now we're seeing, it's probably an issue. Yeah, it probably needs to be changed. So, you know, now we're going to change it. Oops, sorry. You know what I mean? It's probably one of those things, in my opinion, of now that because now we didn't have cameras like we do now. We didn't have the accountability that we do now. So now it's coming to the forefront. Now you're seeing it, and it's like, whoops, oh yeah, we need to fix that. So, you know what I mean? I think it's one of those things. Now you have the actual, because back in the 80s, which probably leads to a lot of the mistrust today in the 70s and stuff. That's, those parents are like, don't talk to them, stay away from them. You know, I mean, rightfully so, because they experienced that. Where now it's on TV, now it's being recorded, and people are being held accountable for it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of just a different progression of how things are going, I think.
Yeah, and they even have gun cameras now. Do we have gun cameras here in North Carolina yet?
We do not, but we should. That is the cost of a flashlight. No brainer. You see what the gun sees, and I think because the body camera moves with like if I'm looking over here, it's over here, the gun could be pointing in the other direction. I want to see, and I want the public to see too, because if the officer isn't justified and you kill somebody, no brainer. Everybody agrees. But if you can see it and see what they see, somebody running at them with a knife or whatever, then they see that. You see how fast that person is coming at them and the threat. That right there will solve so many of these issues, and it costs as much as a flashlight, and it's auto-triggering. So when you pull out your gun, it automatically starts recording.
Right, I seen that. I looked into that. So what's the problem here in North Carolina? What's the holdup? I mean, you know, I know you can't see me and all, but you know, it can't hear you, Free. You on mute, Free.
Sorry, I said his laugh said it all. He was just like, huh. I think we might need to table that discussion.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it's financial reasons. How about that? And that could have something to play into it. But I mean, I think
financial reasons.
Yeah, like the cost of actually buying it. You know, like let's say like equipping 1,000 officers, $10 each. That's $10,000. You know, it's not really an excuse to me, but you know, we can say that. But I think a lot of it is there is a lot of political people that if you look at their financials, which I do quite regularly. So if any of you are listening, just know I'm watching. You can see who they get their contributions from. Like I'm with the Sheriff Police Alliance, we give no contributions, but we advocate and we want change. And we will advocate for law enforcement when it's right. However, we're not giving people thousands of dollars because we want them to defend no matter what. So, I think when you have changes and just hold people accountable and see why they are doing certain things, you'll see the change happen that should happen.
Gotcha. So Sam Blue asked another question. I don't have my controls. I'm not logged in, but he said that there's a federal funding already in place. He says $500 million.
Yeah. Are you talking about is he talking about like the brine or whatever because only certain departments get that. They share that if they apply for the grant. And typically the larger ones, yes, get it. And as far as there are the ones that give body cameras and that is allocated, but not for the gun cameras.
Yeah. Okay. So he asked another question about what was that? Let me go back up here.
Is Mr. Blue related to the other Blue I know?
Who's the other Blue?
The elected Blue?
I don't know, but he's very much into politics, though.
I'm just messing with him. He knows what I'm talking about. If it is, he could be completely unrelated. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just give him a hard time.
Yeah. I don't know, but no, he's a very, very intellectual brother. I'm learning a lot about politics because of that brother. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that entire family. I know the other one, the third, very, very good guys. So very on their game. So I give him that.
Good deal.
The thing I like about both of you all, the Blue that's answering the questions as well as yourself, are that you all are not scared, and neither is someone to attack those questions that nobody wants to touch. The ones that nobody wants to answer because they're scared, like, things could be skewed based upon their opinion. And so I think that that's a good thing that you all run towards that versus running away from it, because you're building, because everybody's going to look like, okay, so what did you say? Like, what do you think? And so I think that that's always going to, put you all ahead because you're willing to address those difficult situations.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean that's how it should be. I mean, you're supposed to do that, but you have these people. It's called like double speak for a reason, where they're okay, good.
We thought we should do that. I was like,
yeah, I see. But yeah, you need that, because the only way you create change is through that way. I mean, if you always have somebody reading off the prompter or going off their little bullet points, and a lot of politicians do that, you'd be surprised how many will limit how often that they communicate or answer questions specifically for that, because they don't want to say the wrong thing or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, if you don't agree with it's America, don't vote for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And two, it's what needs to happen. It needs to be, at the end of the day, even if I'm not elected, I'm going to continue. And everybody, that's why a lot of people know that I will continue to fight for people, because it's the right thing to do. And God forbid somebody does that, so, and it needs to be answered, because when people keep ducking these questions or keep not answering the uncomfortable questions, nothing's going to get resolved. And I'm tired of not seeing it getting resolved.
Right.
So,
and I like the fact that you're into justice reform and recidivism and all of that. So he has another question. What's his question there, Free?
I assume law enforcement is facing some division like the public. What will you do to help with this if elected?
Okay. I think that the division part, like I said, coming together, people are going to, if I am elected, they're going to be sick of seeing me, because that's what I'm going to be like. I'm going to be like a mayor that's going to be running around involved everywhere, and trying to talk to people. They'll be like, man, just leave us alone, man. What are you doing? Because I want to, I just think that's what needs to happen. And I think it's important to, if you remember when we talked about the people cleaning up and doing stuff, you can even have officers doing that, volunteering or going out and helping communities, or even getting people to help themselves go out there and have a community meeting. And how can we address this issue? How can we move forward? And I think that's just what needs to happen. And I think doing that will solve a lot of problems. And I think, it's a one step, and it's not going to solve everything, but I think it's a step in the right direction, at least.
Do you think that there's a reduction in police recruitment in North Carolina, or is there? I guess I should ask that.
I would say that there is, yes. There's a lot more job openings. Yes, there's a lot of people getting out of it. And a lot of it is too, and that you see the stuff on TV, people, burning flags and, spitting on officers, throwing bottles at them. And, and it's like, you try and do the right thing and you're just going to get thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
Because not every time, look, there is times where officers, and I'll say, yeah, they're in the wrong. They need to be helped.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of times where the officer, if you look at from a legal aspect and the totality of circumstances, they are in the right, but they still get demonized for it. I think once you get people to understand their rights and how they should, do things, it will resolve a lot of issues. So a lot of people don't know their rights. Like I like to watch those videos where you have people holding up the camera and they're in a police parking lot and they're sitting there taunting, like saying outlandish stuff to the police officer.
Are you drunk?
Yeah. Oh, you saw that video? Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I love that. People get mad at me, but I love that kind of stuff because it shows, you see how the officer reacted. You can tell that he is not used to that or doesn't know how to react to that. That is the problem. The officer should know exactly how to react to that. Know that citizen is in his rights. Know that just, the other officer knew. And you see the different reaction. That's why I removed it, but you put that up there because you see the two different reactions. You see the one that knows how to encounter that and was professional. You see the other one that was unprofessional and didn't know how to encounter that. And that's where you have problems. Yeah. So I think once you kind of train people better, have the right officers and where they need to be, and you kind of just have that standard of, no, this is a professional department. This is a professional job. It will be treated as such. And I think once you resolve the culture and the things like that in it, you're going to have a lot better community reaction and a response rather, and you're going to have better experience as well. I mean, you're just going to have it. It's going to change the dynamics of policing is what it will do. So.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, good stuff, man. We rolling towards 2 hours. So let's close out. Let's give you 60 seconds to plug yourself and what you're doing. And any way anybody could contact you to support or to get in touch with you, period. We have your emails and contacts up here. 60 seconds, brother. How would you promote yourself right
now? Let's say public safety over politics. I may not have people that agree with me on one side or the other, or especially even my own side, because I'm doing something they don't agree with. But guess what's the right thing? And that is my promise to everybody. I will always put what's right over politics. And yeah, I may say some political things occasionally, but if it's the right thing, I will do it. I don't care what it is. It needs to be done. And I think that's just the overall message. And I want to move people forward. I want to do the change. And guess what? I don't know everything. If I see something that's good, bring it, or you have something you think is good, bring it to my attention. And guess what? It may not be implemented, but we still have the conversation. And two, if you look at, I don't agree with what the Mecklenburg sheriff does all the time, but I like that he has doing the mental health facility at the jail. Where he's doing a barbershop there. That is the direction we need to go in, but I don't agree with everything he does, but I do agree with that. And I have no problem commending him for that. And that's the whole part of public safety over politics. It shouldn't be as political as everybody wants to make it sometimes, unfortunately, but it just needs to be doing what's right at the end of the day.
Right. That's good stuff. You want to add anything to that?
No, I have thoroughly enjoyed this session in learning a little bit more specifically about your personal thought process. And I feel like we kind of went on this whole little voyage today, and having very personal conversations to personal experiences to how we can relate it and how we continue to progress. And so I'm pretty sure there'll be some more with the cool spot in you in the coming future. I see it now, some conversations and things that we'll have outside of this. So I'm excited. I get excited playing and stuff, so I'm already, thinking about some things already. But I look forward to building and growing, and I look forward to the election and voting. And I'm excited. And thank you for sharing your beliefs and coming and stopping by and just being the humble individual that you are, because that is what's needed for us, like you said, to create this change. And the public safety over politics, that in of itself is a motto to abide by. And I think that, again, it's going to be something that is essential for people to know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, David Blackwelder, thank you so much for just the time, man. And I've learned a lot here. I've gained a lot. Hopefully, our viewers gained a lot from this conversation. Samuel Blue gave some great questions, some things to think about, some things to consider even. And this was a really good build, really good build. We're gonna go ahead and close out. Before we close out, we have new business cards at the cool spot. Let me see if you can see that.
Look at it. Card.
Wait a minute. We have raised letters on there too. So the cool spot and the rule and all that are raised off the paper, and we're creating millennials. That's the front. This is the back. It's saucy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
was on the flip side, you know.
Right. So we're doing good things. We're growing. The cool spot is actually, again, the place where creative millennials meet. This came about to be from a vision that I had of just thinking the idea, like, if we had a voice for the millennials, what would that look like? And the spot was officially launched back in March 2020. Since then, we've done a lot. Had a lot of great guests on the show. Started off as a podcast, doing the videos, and I mean, we're doing a lot. And you guys are starting to get little pieces of the lectures and different things. So it's like, this has been really, really fun. It's delicious. You know what I mean? If I could just use that freely, right? Can I use that loosely? It's delicious. You know what I mean? But I just want to thank everybody, man, for tuning in. And,
okay.
I know it's, you know how. So but tune in next week. We have our next guest. I'll have the flyers done by tomorrow. Well, I left my laptop at home. I'm actually in Charlotte. Papa, come here, Papa. Come here.
Oh, y'all get to meet the little baby Lamoy.
Little baby.
Yeah. He's out, well, full of energy, all energy. Well, I'm in Charlotte right now with my loved ones, and kicking it with the kid over here, man. And I'm just, just getting away real quick, and I left my laptop at home, so I should have the next flyer done by probably late tomorrow evening or sometime by Tuesday. But definitely stay tuned for that. If you guys have not signed on to become a member at the Cool Spot, tune in and sign up for free membership at thecoolspot.com. Get a lot of updates. We also have the Papa, come on, Papa. So we also have the Patreon that's live. He's up now. I done called him up. I done conjured up the spirit.
He rounded up a little bit.
Yeah, I got you. So make sure y'all check out our Patreon. Make sure you follow us, subscribe, and like us on Instagram. Follow the Facebook. Make sure you follow your Cool Spot crew. That is Mr. Cool Spot over there named Lamoy Decina, but his Instagram is the Cool Spot. Make sure you follow myself. It's Free the Poet MC. And also Read It Free on Facebook, and he is Lamoy Decina on Facebook. Make sure you follow the vision. It's only going to get bigger from here. We have a business spotlight coming up this upcoming Thursday. I believe we might have one more slot available. So email us, thecoolspot@gmail.com. We're going to lock in that spot. And we're rocking and rolling. And thank you for rocking with us. Sorry. Now my little one's I'm in here too.
We're doing a spotlight right now.
I feel like I need to get my kid now. Find him somewhere and get him in here.
Come on. So again, thank y'all for just being here and tuning in. And again, it's the Cool Spot. Where millennials meet and we get to build, we get to educate ourselves, and we get to grow. So we'll check it out. We'll see y'all next time, okay? And we're out.
See you guys.
See ya.